On this date in 1773, the Sons of Liberty descended on Boston Harbor, boarded a ship, and dumped its cargo into the sea. And we're still dealing with the outcome today.
What was it like on that day? How did so many men wake up as law-abiding citizens and end the day in rebellion against the state? The Boston Tea Party Museum typically holds a reenactment of the day's events. And as we found out when we visited a few years back, the past was pretty noisy. You could hear the excitement at the Old South Meeting House. There was a revolution a-brewing as they argued about a small tax on tea.
These duties are an infringement of our natural and constitutional rights.
The Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum wants folks to see and hear how the revolution unfolded. In fact, they are asked to lend their voices. Feet stomp, canes tap, and huzzahs are shouted in support of speakers who would break away from good King George. The passionate shouts bring history to life. It's magical to think that here, 5,000 men staked their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred trusts.
These meetings were the most inclusive ever to take place. They included people who normally wouldn't be at a regular town meeting, people who weren't voters. You normally had to be over 21, white male owning property to come to a meeting. That wasn't the case at these meetings, although women still weren't there.
Women were not allowed in the meeting. They were part of the noisy throng which gathered outside.
We need to pay our fair share, is what it comes down to.
You've never even seen the king. You've never even seen a member of parliament. Why?
Well, I've seen the Sons of Liberty, and I know what they stand for, and I'll not have it.
I'd rather be ruled by a king than a mob. You never know what the mob wants from you.
The women were as divided as the men.
They talk of protection, but these redcoat soldiers have done nothing for us but be brutes. I mean, you heard what happened 3 years ago.
I did.
On March the 5th, 1770. 5 of our own were lost here on King Street.
Absolutely.
We can't be treated as second-class English citizens just because we're in a different location.
The man in the red coat has been biding his time. Samuel Adams is a leader of the Sons of Liberty, and he rises to speak.
This meeting can do nothing more to save the country.
With that, some men scramble for the exits. Tea Party Museum Director Sean Ford tells us why.
And he yelled, "This meeting can do no more to save the country. The time for action has arrived." And someone in the background yelled, "Boston Harbor, a teapot tonight." Well, that line by Sam Adams was the signal to let the other patriots know that they had to go down to Griffin's Wharf and destroy the tea. That was the code.
247 years later, behind fife and drum, our mob of 1,000 marches to the waterfront and takes up seats in the bleachers to watch the action.
They'll be in your homes next.
Soon, the Sons of Liberty, some dressed as Mohawks, storm a Republica British ship and have their tea, American style. While the Sons of Liberty intended to keep their participation in the Boston Tea Party a secret, some names have come down to us. A Mainer named Benjamin Burton was on board and watched the tea chest on the hoist. It drops on to the head of a man named John Crane.
I was the only man injured during this event. I was below deck in the hold of the ship, the Dartmouth, trying to hoist up these heavy crates of tea. Some of them are weighing upwards of 360 pounds. One of these chests slipped, hit me on the head, knocked me unconscious.
The Liberty Boys thought Crane was dead and carried him to a carpenter shop across the street, leaving him in the shavings. However, John Crane rose to fight in the Revolution, became a general, and after the war took a land grant in Down East, Maine. He lived out his life in Whiting and was buried there in 1805.
Boston Harbor, a teapot tonight.
Well done, lads!
The Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum is an attraction designed to teach the importance of December 16th, 1773, by giving people a first-hand experience with the sights and sounds of a revolution. While this year's live event was canceled, the Boston Tea Party Museum is offering a virtual alternative. You can find the details about that online.